Welcome to the dark side of conflict, bad faith. Bad faith might look like a normal conversation. It might even sound like a super sophisticated debate. But the goal is entirely different. The goal is not clarity. The goal is escape, control, exhaustion, dominance, or delay. A person acting in bad faith isn't genuinely trying to clarify, understand, repair, or tell the truth. They're just trying to protect themselves or maintain power over you.
In these scenarios, bad faith actors will literally turn this framework into a maze. They weaponize ambiguity. They'll use the language of a quote-unquote misunderstanding to constantly shift layers whenever accountability gets a little too close for comfort. You say, hey, that hurt me, and boom, they shift a layer to intention. Well, I didn't mean it. You provide a cold, hard fact, and they shift to context. Well, I was stressed. It's like a game of whack-a-mole. They're just using the layers as places to hide.
Which leads right into Section 3, weaponizing the layers.
Let's look exactly at how bad actors weaponize these layers to avoid taking responsibility. Seeing this clearly is for sure the first step to protecting yourself from it. Look at this stark contrast. A good faith response says, I hear that it hurt. Let me understand the impact. It acknowledges the impact first, holding space for the other person's reality. But a bad faith response, that sounds like, I didn't mean it. You are taking it personally. It weaponizes intention to completely erase the impact. They use their supposedly good motive as a shield, basically telling you that your pain is invalid just because they didn't plan to cause it.
So here are the classic tactics of evasion mapped out. You've got using context as an excuse for repeated behavior, like, oh, you know how busy I've been, or using facts to deny obvious harm. They might use intention to erase impact or call obvious harm a mere misunderstanding. And of course, shifting layers to avoid accountability altogether. They might demand endless evidence they're never actually going to accept, turning a serious boundary violation into this exhausting intellectual debate. Basically, they're trying to analyze you right into giving up.
This brings us to Section 4, the ethical boundary.
And this is the absolute ethical limit of this entire system, because listen to me, this framework is not a tool to trap you in endless, toxic conversations. The core tenet here is that understanding an abuser does not obligate you to tolerate them. Here is the golden rule. Safety comes before interpretation. When physical safety, bodily autonomy, manipulation, or direct harm are involved, protection comes first. Full stop. The conversation must end. You absolutely do not need to figure out the active layer of a conflict if the person across from you is actively trying to harm or exploit you. No way.
So, what do we do with all this? Well, here is the strongest operating system for navigating conflict. These are your actionable steps. You pause, you locate, you separate, you respond, and finally, you either repair or bound.
Let's break down that Deru Kailo discipline. 1. Pause before reacting. 2. Locate the active layer. 3. Separate facts, feelings, and meanings. 4. Respond to the actual layer. And 5. Notice that final, absolutely critical step, repair or bound. It is not just repair. If you encounter good faith, yes, you repair. But if you encounter harm, danger, bad faith, or a repeated violation, your job is no longer to repair the misunderstanding. Your responsible next step is to set a firm boundary. That might mean physical distance, it might mean documentation, or it might just mean a complete refusal to engage any further.
And that brings us to the ultimate ethic of the entire framework, coherence without control. What does that mean? It means we seek to clarify our reality, to understand perception, and to make sense of meaning. But we do all of this without trying to dominate or force agreement from the other person. We can understand each other perfectly and still walk away with a very real disagreement. And you know what? That is completely okay.
I'll leave you with this provocative thought to consider about the recurring conflicts in your own life. In your hardest conversations, are you genuinely trying to repair a misunderstanding, or are you analyzing yourself into staying unsafe? Are you tirelessly working to translate your feelings for someone who is just using bad faith to dodge accountability? Remember, not every conflict is a failure of communication. Sometimes it is literally just a boundary waiting to be set. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this helps you navigate your next difficult conversation with a lot more clarity and confidence. Take care.
Want to learn more? Explore the full framework in reality, perception, and meaning. Available now at derukailo.com and on Amazon Kindle.